Trading the foreign exchange market carries high risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Trading on margin, utilizing leverage can carry an even higher level of risk and lead to a complete loss of investment funds. So before deciding to trade the foreign exchange market or using any of our software alert products, you should carefully and diligently consider your personal investment objectives, level of experience, and risk tolerance. There is a possibility that you could potentially sustain significant loss. You should not invest any capital or trade that you cannot afford to lose. It is your responsibility to be aware of and understand all risks associated with foreign exchange trading and to seek professional advice from an independent certified financial advisor if you have any doubts. Auvoria Prime does not exercise trading authority over your trades. You and you alone exercise discretionary trading authority over every trade.
Welcome, Auvorians. Steve Vetterl. Hopefully putting out a good broadcast today. Today is the 5th of January. I'd like to do a quick test. Can you see my screen? Can you hear me okay? You could put something in the chat window. Do note that the chat window and the Q&A windows are open. The chat window has in it today all of the links to the Telegram channels that in some cases have been very active. Really good stuff, especially that Arrow chat channel, which there's a link in that for. Yes, so chat window is open. All you have to do is click on the chat window. If you're having problems with that, looks like somebody's having an issue with that, you can always log out of the webinar and back in. My name is Steve Vetterl. It is Tuesday, and in the United States, we have a runoff election in Georgia, and then we have a lot of other events going on. So let's dive right in, go through the risk disclosure really quickly, please. Trading the foreign exchange market carries high risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Trading on margin and utilizing leverage can carry an even higher level of risk that could lead to complete loss of investment funds. So before deciding to trade the foreign exchange markets, any of our software alert products, you should carefully and diligently consider your personal investment objectives, level of experience, risk tolerance. Most importantly, can you afford to lose the money? So Auvoria Prime does not have any recommended settings. There's no such thing as a company recommended setting. So if you're sharing any of the results anywhere, which is really only allowed in the designated Facebook groups, please do not use the term company recommended settings. This calls for educational purposes primarily. And just note that AP is not a financial advisory firm. We're not a broker. We can't recommend brokers. There's some good ones out there. Follow your up and down lines to make sure. We primarily license software that you can use at your own discretion and risk. Has settings. In many cases, they're default right out of the box. They can be adjusted. And that is that. So let's go to the Forex calendar. See if we're sharing the right window here. The Forex factory calendar. Best place to find it is forexfactory.com. It really is some of the best. I always click on this little box up here for those of you not familiar, and I remove all of the orange and yellow events. I only want the red folder events. They are usually the best. So let's take a quick applying of the filter. So have a lot of issues this week in terms of big events, primarily non-farm payrolls on Friday. So we also have some runoff elections. We have some different types of political wrangling going on this week. We also do have the FOMC minutes on Wednesday. Keep in mind this calendar, which is Pacific time, adjusted for your own time zones. So between the last couple of months and all the different stuff that's been transpiring at Auvoria Prime, which has been quite exciting, new releases of software. You know, as I have told many, I do want to see everything get all and ironed out, which has mostly happened. I have now, drum roll please, I have all of each of the softwares hooked up to a VPS. And we're going to be getting these accounts funded with varying amounts of live and demo-based dough so that we will be able to go in and just rip through more detail. And, you know, some of this stuff, you don't really mess with the settings. We'll just make sure everybody's settings are all on board. I will get this. Let your hearts not be troubled if your instances and connection screens do not look like this. They should not look like this. This is for a special deal that I have set up so that I can use the Platinum Pass, which I highly recommend. So that being said, let's go into the favorite part, charts. You will also notice on the S&P 500 chart here, we have added some new stuff. Okay, I've actually come across a really good guy that reached out to me through Twitter. His name is Big Bits. I guess no jokes there, right? But he has really put together some excellent indicators along with some of the stuff that Dasan has done, who is the developer of Variable. So I have implemented what is called the fancy triple moving average, and it's nothing more than a 50 SMA, 100 SMA, and a 200 SMA for whatever time frame we're looking at. So typically we're looking at a daily chart, and you can see the colors here for 50, 100, and 200 day lines. We'll be able to apply that to everything. Not as much of the, looking at it from a DXY perspective, but I mean, I did put it on the DXY chart. Okay. So I think this will help just have additional, there's a fair amount of fanciness. If you guys want to learn more into this, it really is pretty simple. You just go into indicators and you type in Big Bits, or you can click on that and see both the Bollinger Bands as well as the fancy triples that I've added. So we can turn those off and on. Just the continuing education in our candlesticks / moving averages. I will be adding in RSI and stochastics as we move forward, and then we'll round out, along with the volume profile, a complete, in my opinion, thorough analysis of any market that one's looking at. So looking at just the S&P, notice we had a pretty big sell-off yesterday, which is typical for the first day of the year. Everybody sort of got that juxtapositioning going on in equities. Obviously a fairly robust week in terms of news events. Dollar, notice we're back down near that low. This is the daily chart of the dollar. Each of these candles represents an either up via green, whatever the hell you call that color, and a down candle via red. We're near the edge here, so I would expect either we hold this level and continue to bounce in this real tight little range, or we're going to drop below it. In which case, again, as I've mentioned many times, it just becomes much more difficult for me to ever say the following, unless you're using Arrow, by the way, which sort of is in its own different levels of strategies. So it is really behooves one to obviously learn the strategies of Arrow. There's a whole bunch of them. I'm not going to present a lot of this discussion related to that because it has its own set of parameters, which I'm not going to sort of be interjecting on. But just to understand generally what other types of software, whether it's some sort of mean reverting or martingale or a cost averaging based system, which much of our software is, the win rates on this stuff, once something breaks from a decent amount of basing, it's usually lower. Okay, so what's that mean? That means that more than likely, if we do break this today, tomorrow, this week, could be next week, who knows, it could be 3 months from now, I could be wrong, right? I would be less apt to, in the case of the Euro US dollar, which is next, I would be less apt to be taking shorts as we break above this yellow level. Stretch this out a little for you guys to see. Kind of gets in the way with our indicator here, but you can drag it down. So this is the dollar. The polar antithesis, I guess, of the dollar is the Euro USD. We're getting ready to probably break out above this orange line. So just a word to the wise on that. Steve, Happy New Year. Will anyone be doing weekly calls? And this question's come up a lot. It's actually a good question, David. If somebody could wave their magic wand and have the developers of Alexander Einstein, which is Bill and Riley, actually want to do a weekly call, that would be great. Just don't really get a lot of feedback from these guys on doing a call. We've tried, but you can lead a horse to water, but you guys know the rest of the story. So that being said, GBP USD, again, got our new moving averages here. Just additional areas of confluence. Notice that especially with the British pound, our little yellow support line right here at the 32.20-ish area is also an intersect a few days ago with the 50 SMA. Okay. Now there's a difference between a standard moving average SMA and an EMA, which is an exponential moving averages. Once we get more used to understanding just these general types of moving averages, I'm going to throw a curveball at you guys, and we're going to anchor them to different points in the chart. Okay. I'll also be introducing what's called a VWAP, which is an additional sort of variant, if you will, of a moving average. It stands for a volume weighted average price. So we'll be anchoring VWAPs from different levels of candlesticks from huge inflection or what's called top or bottom fractal points from some of the bigger moves. So if I've lost you with any of this, please stay tuned. We will be adding this to the chart. I don't want to do it all at once because I want everybody to sort of ease into this, right? And have an understanding of eventually, which is probably going to be about 6 to 7 pieces of technical analysis. And that will round out an exceptional mix, if you will, that will help us put together significantly more tradable areas of confluence, meaning areas that lots of stuff shows up on. And then down the road a little bit or further, we'll be overlaying Fibonacci retracement points as well. So if I've thoroughly confused anyone, apologize. It will in time make sense. Even if you don't know how to construct it, you can just follow along and use the advice from very general standpoint. But I do hear, if you noticed, Mariska posted something in the chat there, David. Company is working on getting Einstein and Alexander calls in place as well. But it is being worked on. That's actually a good thing. So thank you for that update. And hopefully the person doing those calls is a raging expert on this software because there's a lot of nuances that have to be understood. Right, Euro JPY daily chart, real tight in range. Just note, the more time we spend here, the more this becomes more solid support and resistance. We could break above this or below this at any time. USD JPY, same thing, still in the downtrend. Notice we've made a little bit more of an extended move today down towards the bottom of this area. Okay. New Year's coming out. Some central banks will be putting out more updated communications. Some, like our current Fed and Jerome Powell, will be towing the company line that we already know about and ad nauseum. And I have the chat window open. Do make sure if you've joined us late, open up the chat window and or Q&A if you want to ask questions, Q&A obviously. If you want to follow the links to any of the software's Telegram channels and or the chat related to that. Just note, guys, when you're in that chat for Arrow, just make a point from a compliance standpoint. I wouldn't be posting, what brokers, like if somebody comes into like, hey, can anybody recommend a broker? Don't go posting anything there about brokers. Just talk offline about that. I trust me. There's about 6 or 7 brokers that the vast majority of our up and down lines across most of our teams on this planet use. It's not any big secret. Just ask. Right. USD CAD, I haven't shown this in a while. I wanted to make sure you guys saw this. Is down near the bottom as well. No surprise, dollar selling off, right? Same thing, USD, CH, Swissy, hanging near the bottoms. Any of the currencies out there, and I know that with systems like Variable, Jason's tried to focus on currencies that have win rates above 70%, right? This could, with some of these moves below some pretty important support points on a lot of different majors that we're looking at, it could definitely throw some of those win rates into a tailspin. So just keep in mind that as you're adding and detracting pairs from your plan. GBP NZD, I don't trade it. I don't trade anything related to NZD. At some point down the road, I may, but this currency and its attachment to others has been some of the single biggest blowouters of accounts. So just a heads up on that. Gold USD, this is a new one. No surprise again, right? Gold's been ripping. I expect this thing to just sail past some of these points as this country and many continue to drive debt onto their balance sheets. It's going to do nothing but fuel the gold bug speculation and the associated miners that get drawn along with them. All right, so let's T. So let me just open up this chat and make sure everybody sees this. If you scroll up to the top of the chat, there should be, because I sent it out to all panelists and attendees in the chat window, there should be 4 links in there to different Telegram channels. So if you don't see that, I certainly can repost, which tells me that if I post something before I make this webinar public, then nobody sees it. Look at that. Live and learn. There we go. So I'll just repost it. Boom. I always thought you could post stuff in a chat window and then make the whole Zoom event broadcastable and have that stuff still show up. But look at that. We learn something new every day. So there they are for real. Hope you guys see them. All right. What else do I want to address? Gold. Unrelated, just the gold trust. I follow this ETF quite closely just because you can see a lot of the volume that executes on it. This is one of the most traded ETFs on this planet. Do know that what Mariska said there, this is true. Those links can also be found in the AP Live under AP Academy in your back office. Okay. The reason I, in many cases, never post them is I really want you guys to go to the back office and have to sort of find them, right? But we've had some issues with people not being able to find the links and not being able to get. And keep in mind with Arrow, guys, there are a number of, if you, and here I'll just show you guys this so you understand. It's probably a good thing to have everybody understand. This is a risk management thing. So we're in the Arrow chat room, and there's a lot of participation. I have a ton of members in here. If you guys actually click on this, I don't know if you could see this or not. Each of these, and this applies to my channel as well as any of these channels, which I'd be subscribing to at a bare minimum. As an Auvoria Prime builder and or just subscriber, you should be subscribed to like 6 or 7 channels at a bare minimum, just because of corporate and all the announcements. But you can actually find all this stuff, right? So look at all the files that were posted in here. You know, you can go in and see Nathan's strategies and rules, right? So, you know, just know that in any channel, you can search for it by just clicking on the group, looking at different things. So if you go and you click on my channel, click on Market Watch, view channel info, or you can go back and actually see there's been photos. Most of them are just of my ugly face, but there's 3 files posted and a whole bunch of links out there. You can actually sort through this. And as I had an email from one subscriber asking questions about some of my early day stuff in Alexander and Einstein settings, I directed them to the beginning of the Market Watch with Me channel, where I have a ton of stuff posted about Alex and Ein. Right, so that rounds out. I wanted to address that. Wanted to get the links out, go over the currencies. What else do we want to talk about? Right now, here's a piece that is really unrelated to specifically Forex, but Jeremy Grantham is, along with a number of other people I follow, one of the few that I actually listen to his stuff pretty intently. And here comes the link to this. It's really just an executive summary, and then you can get into a much deeper dive if you want. He's just talking about the bubbleliciousness of a lot of stuff, you know, Bitcoin, Tesla, you know, list goes on and on, real estate in some places on the globe. and how potentially there's a real bubble going to potentially pop in this area. It's a pretty good read. Check it out. That's really all I have to say, guys. Some of the questions I continue to get on Twitter is that I use TweetDeck. So here's this. If you guys don't know it, this is more of like a deeper dive research. Do know if you follow me on Twitter, I do not spend my days chatting about useless crap. I just retweet some of the best traders, research analysts, portfolio managers, and hedge fund guys, because that's what we can glean the best story on our constantly evolving global macro story. So if anybody's got any questions on anything, you can always send me an email, svetterl@auvoriaprime.com. It's VETTREL. I do recommend if you send me an email, make sure you include your settings for whatever software you're using, and also do yourself a huge favor and hook it up to my FX book and make sure both of the green check marks are verified. So I'll leave it at that. If you're in Georgia, go vote. And other than that, have a hell of a week, guys. I'll see you on Saturday. Be well.